So I would like you to turn off your brains for a little bit. All right? I want you to think a little more creatively because I can feel the heat coming from all this brain power. And there's a lot of brain power in this room. That's still talking about all these technologies. Because this talk and what I'm going to cover is not about necessarily the data and the graphs and all those aspects. So I want you just to relax a bit and think in a slightly different way. So first, a question for you. What does an IoT-enabled farmer look like? And generally what you would say is, well, there's sensors in the field that gathers data into some sort of cloud platform with storage and machine learning and intelligence, analytics, and those sort of things. And you'd actually be wrong, right? Because that's an IoT-enabled farm. And I want to shift your thinking into the actual person because the farmer, the IoT-enabled farmer, looks like every other farmer, right? Are there any farmers in the room? No hands. Oh, one gentleman here, fantastic. He could look like this, right? He could be an IoT-enabled farmer. And when you say things like cloud and stream to a farmer, it means totally different things, right? Just like if you went to a transport company, look at TfL. The last time you were at a tube station and they said, I'm sorry, there's delays because of the analytics that we used on our cloud platform, you know, the ops were just way over the roof, you know, our usage was up. They never say that, right? Platform and operations and infrastructure mean different things to these end customers, and that's who we're trying to get to. And that's the point of what we're trying to do. Big data, cloud, IoT, all these smart technologies, that is what it's for. So let me ask you another question. What does a smart city look like? And now you've thought it actually looks just like any other city, right? When we talk about smart cities, we aren't talking about a utopian city of the future that is hovering, 20 kilometers off the ground. We're not talking about these sort of futuristic aspects. We're talking about here and now. We're talking about the cities of now. So is smart a dead word? Is smart a useless word? Smart just makes us think, okay, well, actually, it's something I want to aim for. The smart TV, the smart kettle, the smart whatever it is. It is an aspirational term that we're trying to get to using technologies. So I want to give you some insight because with this collective brain power in the room and all your great ideas, your innovation, the work that you're doing here, how do you start with the smart city, right? Where do you begin? Well, let's start with what they do wrong, where cities go wrong in the first place. And I get this from my experience that I've worked with cities, some of the large cities in the world, talk about, and when they think about how do we get to the city of the future, the first thing they do, they think about policy and not political. Now, let me explain this a bit more. When you are a city official, you think about creating a policy, but you don't get any buy-in at the senior level. So let's say you've come up with a great way to improve people's lives, right? You've gone to Transport for London and say, you know, with the data you have, we can improve your customer journeys. We can give you better insights. We can save your passengers money. We can improve your performance. All these great things that can happen. And you go to the city and say, look, Sadiq Khan, Mayor of London, we can reduce your crime rates. We can do all these great things. If you don't have that buy-in at that senior level, they will not listen to you. They go, great, well, how much does it cost? And you give them a figure on a large piece of, a number of zeros, and they go, I'm sorry, no, because it doesn't really matter to us, right? It ends up going through policy. The second thing they do is they think in the past and not the present. Now, all the things that I've been hearing so far, it's all about what you can do, right? What is possible? Where do we go next in the future? But cities think about the past. They think about challenges and problems that have plagued them in the past. Historical data. In the past 20 years, we have seen this. Great. This has always been a challenge. And look at the way that cities change. A good anecdote is some insights that came, I think it was from Transport for London, might be another transport operator, about bus journeys and teenagers taking bus journeys. Do you know one of the main reasons why teenagers take bus journeys these days? You would say, well, actually, maybe it's car ownership, the cost of car. Nope, it's not that. Maybe it's the fact they live in London, they don't need a car. Nope, it's not that. It's actually because they can use Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram on the bus and not have to worry about driving and checking all those sort of things, right? So it's the changing landscape of how we look at our city. The fact that we now do probably have more meetings in cafes where there's Wi-Fi and access to the internet than we do now in our offices. And that's led to things like the sharing economy and so forth. So the way that we interact with our city has to change. The way that we think about the challenges of our city has to change. The way that our city thinks about its challenges and how it grows has to think about the future of where we go and not where we've been. And they end up procuring to a specification. And this really comes down to looking at, if you're a vendor, how you take part in buzzword bingo, right? So these are only some of the buzzwords that are around now. There's plenty more for big data that are up there. Some of them are very specific to smart cities. Who's heard of urban metabolism, right, as a buzzword? Well, that's about how a city uses the flow of materials and energy to help differentiate and understand where its citizens are living and where it's growing, right? So if there's more energy going towards certain areas of the city, you know that actually that area may be growing or maybe a business district. But if you start talking to an elected official, Sadiq Khan saying, hey, Sadiq, I'd like to talk to you about IoT, enabled smart cities with urban metabolism and all this big data and analytics, and he just go, I don't care, right? What gets me elected are reducing pollution, reducing noise from Heathrow, reducing crime rate. What does this solve? And the danger here is that when you go to buy a smart city, you go, all right, so have I got LoRaWAN? Tick, yes, okay, great. Have I got building information modeling? Tick, yeah, tick, 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 tick. And you forget about the actual reason for why you're doing all this. Why are you doing big data? Why is your service that you're providing, why is that important? Just so you can crunch numbers? That doesn't help a smart city, crunching numbers. So what should they do, right? So firstly, it begins with you, right? People, you are citizens of a city, probably, most likely, right? You live somewhere. It begins with you. What are your challenges? When you get up in the morning and you think, all right, I've got to get to 155 Bishopsgate, you don't go, big data, that will help get me there. Or maybe you do, I don't know, but probably the most obvious room to do so. But you don't think like that, right? You think, what's the weather? Is it going to rain? What's the best journey? Are there any delays? What are my meetings? You think about these real challenges that affect you, not necessarily about big data, and that's quite key. So cities have to be curious. They have to know what are you trying to do? Where do you want to go? Where do you shop? Where do you live? Where do you eat? Where do you socialize? Who are your friends, right? We do that with big data. Yes, we understand that. But it's curious about you and your needs because they have to listen to you. Cities that don't listen to the citizens don't understand what they need to do. So a city that also then involves you starts to change and says, okay, you know what? I understand that you have needs, right? The way you live, there's a high crime rate. What could you do? Like, what can we do? Do we need more insights in terms of having the street lights on? And that you look at the rise of intelligent and smart street lighting, that's how it started to help reduce crime, actually, and energy efficiency. So they involve you. They begin to understand your challenges and understand these technologies. So anyone who says, I'm a big data company, and probably you all say you're in a big data company, and I get the same with IoT companies. We're an IoT platforms company. And I say, no, you're not. The IoT sector is dead. They say, what do you mean? It's dead. There is no IoT sector. If you're selling services, an IoT platform into the city environment, you're a city services company with an IoT platform. If you're selling, big data into the manufacturing industry, you're part of the manufacturing industry that happens to offer big data services, right? And that's a key differentiator, because only when you turn it that way, you go, right, I'm here to help you, Sadiq Khan, keep your pledge and reduce your crime rate. Fantastic. How do you do that? Well, we can do that by using understanding the information sources and big data analytics, all that sort of thing, metadata, whatever else goes through, and we can reduce your crime rate year over year. Fantastic. That's what we need. And that's the conversation that we need to have when it comes to things like big data and technology, right? So you've got the platform, you've got the understanding. They also want to partner, believe it or not. Cities can no longer afford to just buy services. If those of you that have tried to sell to a city in the past, or especially in the most recent past, we said, actually, you know what, we can't. Take the borough I live in Lambeth, 58% or 54 to 58% budget reduction year on year, okay? They can't afford to buy things. They're just worried about renovating their building and making sure that the streetlights stay on, right? So how do you get involved with them? And cities are saying, okay, you know what, we can't buy these services from you. And initially you start to turn and walk away. But actually they say, but hang on, we see the value in what you do. We see the value in big data. How about we work together? If there is some way that we can provide you with the data, we give you access to the data we have, we give you access to the street furniture to put sensors on, or whatever else happens, we give you that data. Can you show us some insights? And maybe together we can do something that gets us both money, right? So you have to start small. Now, I have a confession to make. I have big data in my pocket. It's not my smartphones, it's actually this, right? This here. This is not some special magical gizmo. Let me turn it on. It is, and you'll probably guess what it is. What do you think it is? It's a bike light, right? Very, very simple. Now this bike light, and I've got a bigger picture for those who can't see it, is just one by a company called C-Sense. This is an expensive bike light, but it has Bluetooth to connect to my phone. It has GPS, motion sensors, accelerometers. And that's quite key because this bike light on the back of a bicycle can detect things like potholes. It can help to understand where the next pothole might occur because actually potholes and road surfaces have a trend where they start to get a bit more bumpy. And cyclists can actually understand that better than cars can because cars have quite modern suspension, right? So every cyclist that goes around will understand that. It starts to detect near misses and traffic because those of you that are cyclists will know that when you hit traffic, you tend to go really slow. You do these sudden turns as you weave in and out of vehicles and buses, right? Now imagine this. Now the key thing with this, and this connected bike light, all these great things, and it can alert my some friends and family if I have an accident because it has an accelerometer. The key thing is though, it's still a bike light. It still does what it is supposed to do, right? And that is important because we don't want to just deploy tech for tech's sake, right? So this is big data. This is collecting information as many times a second as required, right? Now that's quite key though, because if you take into account this with the London data store and all that information, you now start to say, oh, actually, so I've got all these sensors out there on this bicycle by these users that are cycling around. They understand that. Imagine them on Boris bikes, for example, with maybe pollution sensors and temperature sensors. I understand where the hotspots are. You would link that with the London data store. You start to understand from city, actually, I know that you've got all these services planned for these roadworks, but that service is decaying. So maybe if you brought that forward, instead of having to refill that road because it's all potholed and then dig it up 5 years later or the next year to relay some cabling, maybe you can save the city some hassle, save some frustration, reduce pollution, right? Small things like that. And London will go, that's quite useful actually. Because when you amplify that by thousands and thousands of cyclists, all of a sudden you have big data in your pocket. Right? You have the ability to change your city and the way that you live in your pocket, whether it be a light sensor, whether it be a connected helmet, a smart bike, whatever goes on. And that is the key thing about big data, what you do. This is just a bike light at the end of the day. That data side of it is what you do. That data side is the key thing. And that, again, goes to change the world. And we start small, we build our cities from the beginning. So that's it for me. I hope you found that useful. Feel free to tweet me, get in touch. Any questions? This gentleman here. If we have a microphone. Yeah, you can just yell out. It's fine. Just wait 5 seconds. There we go. Thank you very much.
Thanks. I think we technology people tend to look for complex solutions to solve simple problems, and I see this is it's not so as evident as in smart cities and IoT. What do you think?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the bike light is one example of someone that manufactures bike lights, it's cyclists that said, I'm sick and tired of having these near misses and not understanding the city I live in. They're not trying to do anything over the top. They're not trying to be the cloud platform and the analytics platform and the integrator and aspects. They're trying to just be a piece of the puzzle. And you're right, we do overthink things. We think maybe we can do all these great technology, we can put LoRaWAN around the place, we can overthink things. Now there is a time and place for technology, right? If we don't think about the technology challenge and the technical challenges, they'll never get solved. So we do need that. But at some point we need to abstract that and say, what are we trying to do with this? Why are we building these services? Why are we building these cloud platforms? What is the point of it? Are we doing technology for technology's sake? The danger of a city is a city thinks like that as well too. Oh, we'll just put internet connected parking meters all over the place. Why? Well, because that's what everyone does, right? That's how the world thinks. We just connect everything to the internet. They're not thinking about the use cases. So there is a time and place to think complicated things. There's a time and place to abstract that and say, actually, it's about that use case. Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much.